This is a story about meeting an idol. One of my idols, I do a lot of poetry, but a lot of my idols are musicians or comedians. One of the idols in my life, ever since Mr. Show came out, is David Cross, a comedian. You might know him as Tobias on Arrested Development. And this is about a time when I got to meet him and have a dream come true in a bad way, in the wrong way. So I traveled around and did poetry, and this gal and I used to travel by motorcycle, touring around doing poetry. And one day she said, hey, it's kind of weird, I kind of got a boyfriend when I was shooting something down in Louisiana. And I was like, who? And she said, do you know David Cross? And I was like, I know a David Cross, and it was him. And so I lived on a boat in Marina del Rey at the time in Los Angeles. And she says, hey, he wants to come over, meet you, have some barbecue and stuff. And my nerves kind of dropped a little. I was like, I've had a dream for a while, and maybe it's going to happen tonight, where I make David Cross laugh. And how hard could it be? The answer's pretty hard. So he comes over, and we're having a good time, drinking some beer, and they break out some of the doobies. And at this point, a few years ago, I had never smoked a joint. And he passes me the joint. And I say, nope, I gotta wait. He's like, wait for what? I was like, well, you know, at the time I was like 34. I'm 34 years old, and I haven't smoked a joint yet. So you don't wanna have gas station sushi as your first sushi. So I'm gonna wait till I'm married, and honeymoon night, I'm gonna smoke my first joint when I get married. And he said, with no facetiousness, he said, that is literally the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my fucking life. It's nothing. It's fucking nothing. And I just got in an argument with him about like how valuable a moment could be. And he's pretty keen on debating, and it got a little heated, and he got up and left and said, hey, I'm gonna go back to the house. He left the boat early, and I said to Amber, I was like, that didn't go very well. And maybe there'll be another chance. And so I was doing a show in New York City, and I was like, all right, hey, David, would you want to do something with me when I come to New York to do a poetry show? Maybe you could like do a poem with me or after me or something. It's a big show. It's a book release party, and I would love it if you were there, and we just had a blast. He's like, yeah, but I don't want to rehearse it. We'll do something together. I don't want to rehearse it. I just want to feel it and have fun, and that'll be better. I was like, great. And I was like, this is my chance to really shine with my poetry to a dude who probably doesn't like poetry that much, but I'm gonna give my best. So I put on a pretty good show, I thought, and afterward, and then another poet went up after. But I remember he went up with me, and he stands up there in a big sweater. He's like, this is a poem about Katrina. And it was like that worst poetry voice, and it was very dark and very odd. And I was like, oh God. And then I get off the stage, and I was like, what'd you think? And he slapped me across the face. And he goes, don't you ever do that again. I was like, my poetry set? He goes, no, the guy after you was so bad, I never want to have to sit through that again. I was like, oh God, strike two. Well, he had a Halloween party, and I read somewhere that he had beef with Larry the Cable Guy. So I was like, oh, that'll be fun. I'll dress up like Larry the Cable Guy. And when I show up, he'll be like, oh man, this guy I hate. All right, you researched me. But no, that didn't happen at all. I remember walking into the party, and he answered the door to Amber's house. And I was like, I didn't even know what Larry the Cable Guy's catchphrases were. And I was like, googly, googly. And he's like, all right. And I was like, I'm Larry the Cable Guy. And he goes, yeah, I know, I hate that guy. Come on in. And I was like, fuck. Thought this was my way in. And then I realized it's never gonna happen. And we took a boat. I used to live on this boat called the C-section. And he, it has to be a pun. It has to be a pun. And we decided to go to Catalina for Labor Day with a couple of couples, and we go out there, and it's Santa Ana winds. The boat gets fucked up. I rented a place on a rock beach. We woke up in the morning. He's like, I slept like shit. We bought these sleeping pads, and they suck. We just felt like we're sleeping on rocks. And I was like, did you blow them up? And he's like, nope, I didn't. I thought it was self-inflating. Fuck. Everything was wrong. It was terrible. And they're like, let's skip this weekend. Let's just go back. This is awful. And I was like, I thought this would be a time to bond with one of my heroes. And this didn't work at all. But we're riding the boat back. And it's about a few hours into the trip back to the California coastline. And this plume of water sprays out. And I was like, oh, let me turn off the engine because we'll watch dolphins breach. I cut off the engine. And we all gather up in the deck on top. And then you see this Pacific gray whale with its back out, a huge plume, and it is such a massive beast as wide as this theater. You can't imagine that that is what it is that close up. And it does a turn and comes towards my boat. And I didn't know what to do, so I said, everyone, just be quiet so it'll go away. And we'll trick it. We'll trick it. But it came towards the starboard side of my ship, and as it approached, everyone gathered tight and was very quiet, and then it dove under my boat, and it breached out the other side, and everyone was holding their breath, and I said, if we don't fuck right now, we will never remember this moment. And he laughed for about 30 seconds.